Hello friends, Mystery here. Today we're taking a look at a Psyker build. Well, actually two Psyker builds, 2 for 1. You're so welcome. Now today's Psyker builds are based around a similar sort of foundation, which is the electrokinetic force staff, a very powerful staff. It's just a little bit different than the rest of the cast. Now instead of having that close to medium range power with area of effect explosions and fire and all that stuff, instead it is a long range sniping blaster. So if you enjoy playing, like, you know, long-range shooty veteran, this is probably a good fit for you. And this thing can do some crazy damage. It's actually quite a good boss or two. It annihilates, you know, tons of elites. It's just a very powerful staff. I would say it's probably underrated, even including by me, but I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that it's a little bit trickier to use than most. Now, as far as what we're going to do today, I'm going to be talking about the general stuff that both builds share. Then I'll show you the 2 different talent trees, and then I'll have 2 clips of each one of these in gameplay so you can see what the difference is fundamentally. Let's start with the weapons side of things. We're going to start with our melee, the Blaze Force Sword. I am using the Elise to pay homage to my best friend Elise, but also because this is like one of 2 good marks for this. The Elise and the Deimos are the 2 good marks, and either one of those is going to do just fine for you. I like the Elise because it's nice and simple, nice broad sweeps that can hit lots of small enemies away from me, and that's really all I'm using it for. Whatever weapon you use in this slot, it doesn't necessarily need to be this one. Whatever it is, though, you need to be comfortable to use it in melee to defend yourself against just a handful of enemies that are getting close, because the rest of the time, 95% plus of the time, we're going to be on that EK staff, just blasting with a range weapon. So as far as our stats here, minimum warp resistance, probably fine. Then we'll go perks for block efficiency and melee crit chance. Critting with this build is very important. If you don't crit, you're going to be in the shit. And then blessings, deflector and uncanny strike. Deflector just allows us to block range attacks and melee attacks, and gives us a ton of block cost reduction, which means that sometimes you'll end up in sort of a bad spot. You throw up the block, you dodge your way, shove your way out of there, and then you'll be all good, right? This can help us to escape some sticky situations, and the Psyker needs that extra survivability at times, which is nice. Uncanny Strike is a blessing that has been really OP in the past, but it's actually sort of converted its power into something that's very good for this build, because now what we can use this for is to hit enemies a couple of times in the head to get that brittleness stack on them, and then we can swap to our range and absolutely blast them, because it'll last on them for 5 seconds. So they get a huge debuff, and they take way more damage from us and for everybody else, so we can use this to help our team DPS bosses if nobody else has it. And yeah, and then we can just go blast mode. And speaking of blast mode, we got our electrokinetic force staff right here. We are going to put the charge rate as the minimum. I think that's probably the best way to build it. The charge rate being from 60 to 80 literally saves you 0.09 seconds on charging your zap. So I don't think it's really that important. Plus, 95% of the time, we are going to be just volleying left clicks. Unfortunately, that's sort of the optimal way to play the electrokinetic staff. It's just really powerful in that sense. I wish there was a little bit more power in the zaps, the actual electric arcs, but hey, you know, maybe Skitari will provide that electro power for us. Now, what we're also going to do here is add a bunch of crit. As you can see here, there's a fat critical bonus on this weapon that gives us 21% additional crit. Then we're going to add 5% more on the perks, plus 25% unyielding. Then we're going to go Warp Nexus, which can give us up to 20% more crit. So we're already at 46% crit. And then finally, we're going to put Surge on here, which is going to give us another 5% for 51% crit just off this weapon alone. And then when you left click and shoot a normal ball with this, if it does crit, half the time, it's going to shoot 2 instead of 1, which is doubling your damage. So you go from dealing a non-crit shot. So like this is sort of the breakdown here. If I was attacking a flak armored enemy and I hit a crit, I'm already jumping from 138 to 345 damage. That's almost triple. And then I'm going to shoot 2 shots instead of 1. So now I've gone like 6 times damage, right? That's why crits are so important with this build. It doubles your damage on top of tripling it. So yeah, crit is so big here, and that's why we stack 50% of it on the staff. Okay, moving past this, for Curios, real simple here. Toughness, combat ability regeneration, and ally revive speed. Be a good ally. Bring ally revive speed is important. And combat ability regeneration, it doesn't seem like it would be all that important because it's only going to cut 2 or 3 seconds off our abilities, but 2 or 3 seconds is all it takes for you to overload where you could have otherwise had the vent, had the scriers, and been just fine. And having abilities up in Darktide is very important. Spamming abilities is like the best way to win the game. And then overall, just toughness in general is good outside of that. Okay, let's go to the talents. We got 2 talent loadouts here, so this is the first of the 2. This one, I would say, is probably easier to pilot, at least it is for me. This one is revolving around the venting shriek build. We're going to be sort of doing a hybridized electrokinetic fire sort of thing here. So at the top, you'll see a very similar thing going on in the second build. We're going to take metal, perfect timing, Soul Stealer, Perilous Combustion, come down here, and then we'll take Brain Rupture with Kinetic Flare. This is the only reason we're taking Brain Rupture. Never use this, never actually like brain pop anything. Kinetic Flare, triggering once every 12 seconds, getting a snipe on an elite or a special instantaneously without having to put any extra focus on it. Very, very impactful. Then we will come down here, Channeled Force. Every 5 seconds, if you just channel a full zappy zap, you get 5 more seconds of 20% extra damage to your lightning balls, which is big, right? Because remember, we're 6xing whatever damage you put on like buff your weapon by, right? A 10% damage buff on this weapon, it's going to get multiplied by 6 times, even more than that, right? So if you do a headshot, like if you go to do a headshot here, this is what 138 times. I can't even math that. 3.5 times damage. Like it's gonna do 3.5 times damage there for a critical headshot, and then it's gonna double shot. So that's 7 times damage. So that 10% damage is gonna be applied a lot. So every little bit of boost to your damage is so impactful, and that's why this 20% damage is huge. So when you're about to go ham into a boss or like a big horde, do a big bolt lightning and then go boom, boom, boom for 5 seconds, then do it again. We got Soul Drinker here. This is going to be up a lot because we are putting Soul Blaze on enemies with our Venting Shriek with Perilous Combustion. That's extra crit. So now remember, we were at 51% crit. We're now at 56% crit. Then Empiric Shock. When you continue attacking a target with the left click, which is often, we're going to stack a damage taken debuff on them, so they're going to take up to 30% more from our warp attacks, which is our left clicks. So it just makes you like 1 or 2 shot crushers, more or less. Critical chance, so we're now at what? This was 56? 61, then we take Prescience, 66% crit chance. So then we'll take Apathic Evasion, the best talent in this whole thing hands down. We cannot get hit by ranged attacks when we have crit within the last second, melee or range. That's why we have crit on the melee weapon here, is because if you do get a crit, that can save you from getting shot by things that could kill you instantly. And this critical hitting is just how you like duel with ranged enemies. You can just walk out into the open as long as you have targets where you can continually hit them with the staff, and you're attacking constantly. You're very unlikely to miss getting a crit with a 66% crit chance rate, right? So you're gonna get a crit and you're gonna be immune. So then you can just shoot everything while they just fruitlessly try to aim at you. And yeah, just don't miss, right? Because if you miss or you just walk out there and you haven't crit in the last 1 second, you're gonna get killed. Okay, Psykinetics Aura, cooldown, very important. 1 with the warp, then toughness boost, then Venting Shriek with this down here, Creeping Flames. Make certain that you are over the 83% peril mark before you press the button and vent it all out, because that'll apply the maximum stacks of Soul Blaze to everything around you. Very, very effective. Just point it to the largest group of enemies nearby and let it rip. You can shoot through walls with this, by the way, and it does knock off like dogs and stuff. So if you got an ally who's, you know, somewhere, who knows where, but he's trapped by a dog, you can blast through the wall to hit them, and it goes a very, very long way too. Warp Rider and Vulnerable Minds over here for some bonus damage, and then Puppet Master. We don't need Quell Speed. We've already got the Quell Speed on the staff, and we've got this for quelling. You'll just tap like occasionally just to keep yourself underneath that threshold. But Puppet Master here is going to give us the ability to get more Psykinetics Aura charges, because this counts when allies kill as well. So they can be a little bit farther away. Well, actually a lot bit, 50% farther or 75% farther away, and still give us this cooldown, which is awesome. Then we're going to take Empiric Resolve. Now this is this is up for debate, but I think Empiric Resolve is really, really good with this build, or with generally like with EK staff, because you can shoot so much more before you have to vent or use the Venting Shriek, which just means more blasting, right? Now, this might be scary for people. 30% less toughness replenished. That does impact like how much you're generating. So if you're taking too much damage, if you feel like you're getting hurt too much, what you can do is remove this and then vent, be mainly venting more, be much more cautious of your peril. Or you can take out Channeled Force or something up here and put it over here with Warp Ghost. which will then sort of nullify that toughness debuff. But this will mean that you don't passive quell, which really isn't that impactful anyway. So that could be one way you do it. Personally, for me, I don't take that much damage up front. Remember, we're dodging all range attacks, so we're not worrying about chip damage from that. So yeah, keep yourself safe, be that glass cannon, and you will be able to volley so many shots out, especially because like this, yeah, this is like, I mean, that's such a huge extension to your peril gauge. And then Warp Siphon down here, this is actually like very good for us. Warp Siphon can give us up to, with 6 full stacks here, up to 24% additional base damage. And every time we kill an ally who's got Soul Blaze on them, or kill an enemy who's got Soul Blaze on them, we get a 10% chance to gain a Warp Charge. Plus, we get a guaranteed one every time we kill an Elite or Specialist, which is all the time on high difficulties. And remember that Kinetic Flare is only triggering on Elites and Specialists, so it's going to like snipe one for us every 12 seconds and give you a charge. So it honestly, for as long as you can, I would recommend keeping Warp, like not venting, right? Because venting is just going to be here to reset our peril and to get that Soul Blaze out to keep things like Soul Drinker going. But keeping at that maximum stacks, that 24% base damage stack up, is so juicy. It allows you to do so much damage. So yeah, just kind of like manage your peril and keep that as long as possible, and then get back to high peril quickly. Okay, that's the first build. That one I would say is nice and easy. It's a good hybrid. It clears hordes as well as does single target. Let's look at the second one here. It's a Scryer's Gaze build. So this is going all in on that electrokinetic staff crit damage. We can pump some serious damage with this, but Scryers I think is a little bit harder, at least for me personally, to operate with. Then we'll go metal. So all the top of the tree is the same. Skipping through all of this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so remember, we were at 66% crit with the last build, right? But Scryers, while it's active and charging up, before we're at 100%, we get an additional 20% crit chance, which can push us to 86% crit chance. Now, keep in mind, we could have a Hive Scum on the team as well, who could put us with an aura to 91%, and we could have a Zealot who's running the thing at the bottom left of the tree, which can give the team 10%, so we could be at 101% crit if we really wanted to. But what this is doing is basically, it's building up peril over time, very slowly, but while you're building up, you are getting all those buffs listed there, and 1% damage per second that you build up. This node right here, precognition, every weak spot kill, so aim for headshots with this. This is very important. You need to aim for headshots. Those weak spot kills are going to give additional 1 stack, and that is going to allow you to build way more stacks. And once you're capped out, once you hit 100% peril, this ability turns off. You will lose all of those rainbow buffs at the top, but you'll keep that percentage damage, and you'll keep the percentage finesse damage, which is headshot and critical damage, which obviously is good because we're headshotting and critting like a motherfucker. So you're going to lose the 20% crit chance and the 10% damage, etc., but you'll keep some other stuff. And then Warp Unbound is really the reason why we take this. Warp Unbound says that when you would otherwise overload, when you hit 100% peril with Scryer's Gaze, now for the next 10 seconds while Scryer's Gaze is still cooling down, you can just do whatever you want. You get infinite peril to cast with. So you'll see me hit 100% peril, and then for the next 10 seconds, you can blast as hard as you want, cast any spells you want. You are all good to just blah, 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 like just volley everything you got. Now, the way that I do this is I watch my buff bar. You see, I have a buff bar like sort of near the center of my screen with my mods. I watch that bar for this buff to fall off. When it does, you have a 1.5 second period where you have a grace period where you can cast like maybe one more spell, squeeze it in there, but then you gotta chill out. And you gotta chill out and you gotta wait for it to cool down, which won't be long because Scryer's Gaze has a very short cooldown, and we got that extra 12% cooldown on our curios, which means a lot of times I'll even be lazy and I'll forget this is not gonna be up and I'll overload myself, but usually with everything combined, this can be up just in time where I'm like spamming it and I'll save myself, because Psykinetic's aura can cool this down while it's active, which is awesome. Okay, we'll go out to the left over here. We'll take Warp Rider, Vulnerable Minds, and we're going to take this minor range damage node. This doesn't seem like a wise investment, right? It seems like crazy on the surface, but 10% range damage, that's a lot. Remember, because we're scaling. That's a scaler that scales up when we're critting and multiplying that all up. It's getting doubled by the fact we're shooting 2 balls at once. This is a big deal. And then we'll come over here and take Kinetic Deflection. We don't take True Aim, by the way. You would see this and be like, oh, it's a guaranteed critical. Remember, we're sitting at between 66 and 86% crit as a baseline. We don't need a guaranteed critical every 5 weak spot hits. We're going to be all right, guys. We're going to survive. So this is just a waste. And also you could miss with that attack instead of ultimate waste. Kinetic Deflection gives us some stability where you might otherwise not have it, this can absolutely just turn you into a tank because it converts the block cost of, like, watch this. If I spawn a gunner, let's see here, I need just a regular gunner. Here's a gunner. Okay, watch this. So let this guy shoot me. Right? Like, you can just do this all day, and then I can just sit here, and then I can do this. I can activate Scryers and dump a bunch of peril. So yeah, that's the power of this, is you can just block these gunners all day, just take a ridiculous amount of damage, and that is a way that you can escape a bad situation where otherwise you might not have it. This also, because this is such a good conversion rate, you can take a huge amount of abuse while you're rescuing your allies, because a lot of times, like, enemies will come up and try to melee you while you're doing that, and like a berserker that's going into us, look how little that costs in terms of our peril. And they have to break that peril, and then they can hurt our stamina. So we can just basically guarantee getting allies up with this. It's super, super awesome. That is a really, really powerful perk for saving your ass and saving other people's asses. So definitely get this. Then we'll do Disrupt Destiny and Lingering Influence and Cruel Fortune. In my build, the gameplay footage you'll see, I'm not running this. That was a mistake. I was just trying to see if maybe I could save the point here, but nah, you need this to keep your stacks at that 15 max. Most of the game, and this is a huge buff. Damage, critical damage, weak spot damage, all stuff you want to go for. Aim for heads, you know, blast, and it's super good. Okay, that's everything there. So yeah, I'll timestamp the footage, but I think you should probably just watch both. I'm gonna put like 5-ish minutes of both. First, starting with the flame staff, or not the flame staff, the one with vending shriek, and then I'll do the one with the scryer so you can see what the difference is. But hopefully you enjoy both of them. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Mystery out of here. Bye-bye. Ah.
Report, colleague. Waypoint, Judicial Enforcement Station TN8707.